boy! Yeah! Go boy! Boy, don't keep the ending. Hey, it's Annika here with Sniffdog. Are you sick and tired of your dog ignoring all of your requests? Are you feeling out of control when you ask them to do something and they do not listen? I am here today to help you speak dog, to help you understand why your dog's ignoring you and make sure that in the future they do in fact listen so that you can give them more freedom and actually experience a relationship built off of trust and fun. At Sniffdog, we're here to teach you how to speak dog. If you can have a better understanding of your dog, you can have a relationship built off trust and fun. We want to come on this wonderful journey of pet ownership with you to help empower the love and connection between you and your pup. We are only human, and it is an extremely frustrating experience to feel like you're telling your dog very clearly what you do and don't want and have them actively defy that request. It's frustrating, it's embarrassing, your dog's totally out of control, and it makes us feel a lot of pressure to figure it out in a hurry. The truth is, it's actually not difficult to communicate clearly with your dog, but you do need to understand a few key concepts about how they learn in order to get them to listen. Sit. Yes. If you want to communicate clearly with your dog, make sure you download the training tip sheet. I put it together just for you guys so you can remember all of today's little tips. And as always, stay to the end. We've got some pretty good bloopers this time. Today's 3 training tips are: tip number 1, if you say it, mean it. Follow through on your requests. Tip number 2, mark and reward what you like and it will happen more often. Punish what you do not like and it will happen less often. Tip number 3, be clear, concise, and consistent with your requests. All right, the truth is, communicating with a dog isn't that hard, but the way that you communicate with them cannot be the same way that you communicate with people. Dogs are very visual in nature. They're always paying attention to what your body language is saying versus what your mouth is saying. In a dog's world, we sound like this. Wah, 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 wah. Sit. Certain words will stand out to them because they've learned that those words hold relevance. The more you say those words, the less relevance they hold to your dog. So, what you need to really be clear on with your dog is that when you say something, you mean it. The way that you teach them that is you only say requests one time. If you sound like a parrot or a broken record, like this, sit, 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 Fido, sit. They end up becoming first dependent upon your tone shifting from friendly to angry before they listen, but also they become dependent on hearing the requests multiple times in order to believe that you mean it. Cedar, sit, 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 sit. You must communicate verbally only one time. That way they understand that that word that you're saying is relevant. Now you're all thinking, I know, but he doesn't listen when I say it one time. We'll get to that. But the premise of tip number 1 is you have to say things when you mean them and not say them all the time. Down. Good boy! Yeah! Some of you might be looking at your partners or your housemates or your friends or your family and saying to them, you do that. We all do that. We are horrible at not repeating cues. We generally just parrot and parrot and parrot and repeat and repeat and repeat until we get a result. Now we behave that way with our fellow humans, and sometimes that might work. If there's kids in your home, it might sound like this: do the dishes, do the dishes, do your homework, do your laundry, do your laundry. Eventually, somebody will listen to that request. With dogs, the more you say it, the less they hear it. So, if your dog isn't listening to that one request, you must follow through. If I said sit, I mean sit, and we're not going to move on until you do it, because they have to understand that they have to listen to the request the first time you say it, and that you don't just say things and walk away and give up if they don't listen, because then they learn, if I ignore the cue or the request, nothing happens, nothing good, nothing bad, I'll just go on my merry way. They have no incentive to listen if you teach them that you don't mean it when you ask for it. So, If you have asked them to sit, for example, and I'm telling you, don't sound like this, sit, 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 I want you to sound like this. Sit. Hello, hello, up here. And give them a hand gesture. Whatever your sit cue looks like, it doesn't have to be the traditional hand to sky, it could be like this, it could be like this. I don't care what your hand gesture looks like, but give them an exaggerated hand gesture. Remember, they're watching our body, they're not listening to our mouths. Sit. In order for them to know sit means sit, you have to give them a verbal cue and then a hand gesture. Wait for them to respond accurately. If they don't, take a few steps back and cue again. But I want to make sure you're getting at least 30 seconds between verbal cues and hand signals re-cueing. I know it's tricky. I'm telling you to follow through on your requests, but don't re-cue. However, if 30 seconds passes and they're still not listening, you can give them another cue. Just make sure you move around a little bit to reset them and see if maybe in a different position or a different headspace, they're able to respond to the cue the second time. Remember, this is simplified dog training, so I'm just giving you the ground rule basic tips. If you asked, you must follow through. If you asked and they failed, try not to repeat the cue for at least 30 seconds and make encouraging noises or movements to try to induce them to do that behavior. The moral of the story is if you talk less to your dog but follow through more often, they will respond more frequently to your requests because they believe that you mean it, and when you say something, it's relevant to them. Tip number 2, mark and reward what you like and it will happen more often. Punish what you do not like and it will happen less often. All right, if you've been searching the web, you know about clicker training or marker-based training. This is a positive reinforcement training method that helps to communicate with your dog, hey, that right there that you just did, I really like it. And because I like it so much, I promise you are about to get food reinforcement. You can use the clicker, you can use the word good, you can use the word yes to tell your dog the moment they did the behavior that you liked. If you are just relying on good boy, good girl, or patting them when they do something that you like, it's not necessarily very clear to them exactly what behavior they did that is then causing a treat or a pet as reinforcement. Spin. Twist. Sit. So clicker training or marker-based training is a super effective, really fun and positive way of training or even engaging with your dog to make sure they understand exactly what you like that they are doing. A lot is lost in translation, and that's where a lot of our frustration comes in when we're trying to train our dogs or generally get them to respond to us. We're not speaking their language, we are not clear, they have no idea what we want because all we're doing is talking, we're not showing them, and then if they do get it right, we're not marking it, we're not telling them the very second they did the thing that we liked. And that is why clicker training and marker-based training is so impactful. So I want you to try to remember this phrase, what gets rewarded gets repeated. If you begin to pay attention or even mark and reward your dog for simply doing good things that you like and you want to see more of, then they are going to do more of those things. If you reward it, it will happen again. Now, what usually happens and what usually gets confused between people and dogs is we think we are not rewarding it, but we are. A great example of that is if your dog jumps up and you're trying to get them to learn to stop jumping and you say,
no, off, hey, no, get off.
You literally touched, talked to, engaged with, even came to life a bit when they did the behavior you didn't like. So unfortunately, you just accidentally rewarded jumping.
He won't jump on me.
If you reward it, it will happen again. And that is how we become in these cyclical patterns of accidentally rewarding our dog and we have no idea we're doing it. Another really common error people make is when your dog steals a slipper or a sock. And you're like, oh no, I gotta get that thing. And so you go after them, you chase them, you engage them, you try to get that item you don't want them to chew, back from them. And what's your dog thinking?
Oh my god, the best game of chase ever happens when I pick up this slipper. It's the craziest thing. It's the only thing I can pick up in the house that makes everybody chase me around in circles.
You just rewarded that behavior, and so you're going to see more and more of that behavior occur. So instead of having all these accidental behaviors rewarded that you actually do not like, just simply start mark and rewarding the opposite. And that could be with the word yes, and then giving your dog a treat or a kibble that you have in a container laying around the house every time they go play with the right item versus picking up the wrong one. So understanding the general premise that if you reward what you like, it will happen more often, whether you ask your dog to do it or not, then it does become clear to them what behaviors are worth it for them to exhaust some of their energy on. Now the opposite is, what do I do when they are doing something I don't like? How do I make sure I don't reinforce it? Well, in those examples I've given before, if they're jumping on you for attention, you would simply take away what they want, which is the potential of your attention. So if the dog's jumping on you, instead of communicating and getting all excited, you would simply turn your back and walk away. You could even leave the room very quickly when the jumping begins. They might start to realize,
Oh! When I jump on her, she leaves. That sucks. But when I sit or stand in front of her, she pets me, engages me, and even, sometimes, yes! And then reaches for a treat and give it to me. And I had no idea there were treats here.
which one is your dog going to do more of if you get clear on what you like, which causes reinforcement, and what you don't like, which causes you to leave? If you haven't put it together just yet, dogs learn primarily by consequence. They learn that if one thing happens and then something good happens, they will keep doing the thing that caused the good thing. In the examples we've been using, they will learn if I sit or stand, Annika engages me, or even maybe gives me a treat. If I jump, Annika leaves. The consequence of each behavior will make it less likely or more likely that they do that behavior again. I'm teaching you this so you can understand why your dog is sometimes defying you or not listening to you. Dogs don't defy you because they're spiteful, they're angry, they're jealous, they're rebelling. It's none of those things. Those are human characteristics that we're putting onto our poor dogs. Dogs are so simple, that's why we love them. They simply do what works. If it feels good or it gets them the consequence they want, they will keep doing that behavior. One of the big problems with humans is we don't understand that, and we continue to give them all this freedom and wonder why they're not choosing us or responding to our requests. Why would they respond to our requests when the consequence of coming to us or listening to us isn't that great? And the consequence of ignoring us, such as in a dog park, means that they get all of that other fun stuff. They're not doing it out of spite, they're doing it because it works. And that, my friends, brings us to tip number 3. You must be clear, concise, and consistent when you're communicating with your dog. What I mean by that is if you are inconsistent about what you like and don't like because you're tired, you don't feel like following through, you don't think it's gonna work, and your attitude is negative, your dog will very quickly pick up on the fact that you are incredibly inconsistent, and therefore it's in their best interest to not take what you say seriously and do whatever works for them at any given time. So, circling sort of back to tip 1, you must mean it when you say it, but you also must be consistent in what you say and how you say it. Make sure that your hand signals look the same. Your verbal cue is consistent with other people in the home or people that know and handle your dog. I would also argue that for our poor dogs, it's really tough for them to understand what information is for them and what information is us just talking to other people or me in the living room right now. So I recommend you use a little bit of a shifted tone when you're communicating with your dog to help them sort of ping their ears when they hear your tone switch, so they know that what you're about to say is relevant to them. For instance, I might be talking in this monotone, normal communication tone with my fun people in my life, and then when I start speaking to Cedar, it might sound more like this: Cedar, come! And happy voices at a higher tone. Don't you worry if you don't have a high voice. You don't have to use a super high tone, but that the more different your tone is when you're speaking to humans and then your dog, the more that they can differentiate if it's relevant information for them. Just a little quick tip on what I don't think you should be doing when you're frustrated or agitated with your dog when they're not listening to you. We will not be recommending that you use physical force or punishment to communicate that you don't like something. We simply don't have to hurt them or scare them to help them understand that. Yes, we could get our point across much quicker if we were scary as hell. They might listen faster, but it's not the type of relationship we need or want to have to be in control of our dogs. I promise you that. Okay, I know firsthand how annoying it is when your dog is ignoring you. Trust me, I've experienced it for years and years. And it's even more annoying when you feel like you watch this video, you're doing everything right, and they're still not listening to you. That's a real thing, and that will happen. A smart dog will figure out how to get what they want, even if you're doing everything right. So be patient on yourself and the process of getting your dog to connect with you and really respond to what you want. But also be patient with them. They're living in a world where they're pressing buttons all over the place and trying to figure out which buttons get them what they want and which buttons get the thing that they want taken away from them. Okay, there was nothing really super fun about today's video, but I hope that it helps you understand more of the headspace of your dog when you're trying to ask them to do things for you. Remember, they have their own agenda. They are a species with their own ideas and their own wants, and I really love that about them. So make sure you're being fair with your requests, consistent with what your expectations are, patient in the training process for both yourself and them, and reward them when they do the right thing. Your relationship will change when you get really clear with them on what it is you like and what it is you don't like. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it gives you a little bit of insight that you didn't otherwise have about why your dog might not be listening to you all the time. Make sure that if you're watching on YouTube that you like, subscribe, and press the notify button so you get notified when our next video comes out. Make sure you like and share on Instagram and follow us on Facebook, share with your friends, and make sure that you download the training tip sheet that I made just for you. Enjoy the bloopers. Too much coffee. Okay, 1, 2, 3, action. Hi, bud. I know this is taking forever.